From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of amazing ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I have Marc Benzakein with me, and we're going to talk about a podcast that I call the WordPress Shit Show. I need to put out a disclaimer that the opinions in this podcast are Marc's and mine, and they don't represent anybody else, any employers, anybody we work with, anybody. It's just a look at all the WordPress drama that's happened in the past week. Sit back, relax, grab a drink, and enjoy the shit show. Thank you very much for listening to the SDM Show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital concierge. For all your digital marketing needs, especially WordPress security, jump on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and let's help you put the pieces together and make your business succeed in the marketing realm. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Hey, everybody. Rob Cairns here on a very, very long week in the WordPress space. I'm here with my good friend and guest, Mr. Marc Benzakein. Hey, Marc, how are you today?
I'm doing as well as anyone else in the WordPress space is doing today.
Yeah, I was saying
this smile is 100% real.
Yeah, I will tell you, my head hurts, my body hurts. I'm freaking tired. I'm concerned about the future of our community and our product. And I'm concerned about a lot of things. Those who know, I had Andrew Palmer with me, and Andrew had a lot of frank things to say. Andrew's like you very much. He says it the way he sees it, which I appreciate, because I'm like that. So if anybody's cares, go back and listen to that great interview.
Except Andrew is smarter than I am. So
you're telling yourself short, my friend. Very much. So let's dive in. And for those in the WordPress space and otherwise who don't know what we're talking about the big drama that came out at WCUS 6 days ago. In Matt Mullenweg's Q&A, he basically took aim at WP Engine. There's no question that he did. And he claims it's a trademark. And I have to dive into that because one thing he's done is they've changed all the trademark wording. I have screenshots before and after. And the other thing is using WP, which WP Engine does, doesn't violate the trademark, and the foundation site says that. Any comment?
Before I say anything, I probably should do the same disclaimer roughly that I did at my WordCamp presentation in Canada, which is these are purely my opinions. They do not in any way represent any company that I represent or work with, like Main WP or Site District or any other company related to WordPress. So I just want to get that out of the way. These, any opinions they have are any opinions that reflect their opinions are purely coincidental. These are just me and my thoughts.
And what everybody has to realize is, and I'll add to that, is these are Marc's and my thoughts, and people have to realize that. And under fair use, you're entitled to your thoughts. These are meant to be slanders. They're based on what's been put out there. So if you want to follow more of this, there's a couple of places. You can go to the Post Status Slack. It's a bit of a shit show, and I can say that on my own podcast because
yes, you can.
I feel, and or go to X or go to LinkedIn and follow people like me or Andrew Palmer or Brian Gardner or so on and so forth, and go. Anyway, now that we got that out of the way, how do you feel about this whole trademark mess?
Well, the trademark mess is I think mess is a 4-letter word, and you've nailed it. It's a mess. I think this, it goes back to what we talked about, I think, earlier this year, where it's a matter of when you have a single person who holds keys to the kingdom of everything, and can go back and well, fortunately, can't necessarily rewrite history, but can kind of rewrite the present, it gets very dangerous. And that's the situation that we're in. The trademark mess is, I look at like all of my friends who, consider themselves WordPress professionals, but now they have to suddenly consider, well, am I a WordPress person who is a profession, or am I a professional who works in WordPress? Or, I mean, the semantics of all of this, are kind of mind-boggling. And I look at all the lost time and everything that's gone on this week. I mean, talking to people within the industry, just trying to figure out what the trademark actually means. And then, I actually have seen several people post that they were not aware that a certain person actually controlled 100% of the trademark. And 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 of course, I think you knew that, and I knew that, and I think we thought, at least I did, I thought it was assumed that we knew kind of what we were getting into with all of that. But there are all these there are a lot of people who haven't been made aware of this fact, and they're just now discovering it. And I just see this situation where the community with people who are like fairly new to WordPress and don't know some of these things, and have kind of thrown their hat in that ring, suddenly going, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? And I feel for them. So this trademark thing, I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, it's one of those things that, like, people who are out of touch with humanity and the human cost involved with the community, uh, they're just playing games with people's lives, and to satisfy who knows what. I'm not going to speculate as to what satisfaction is coming out of this, but what I can tell you is it, if we're able to all put ego aside, we can look at it and say it's like severely detrimental to the community. So that may be a really long-winded answer to your question about what my feeling is on the trademark thing, but we have had an understanding of what the trademark was. We've all been diligent about using WP instead of WordPress, and now all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a situation where I'm not going to speak for myself, but I'm going to keep my opinion kind of to myself. But there are people out there who have said, before this all happened, I wasn't even a big fan of WP Engine, and now I have to support them and I have to defend them because of this. And I don't know. I would rather people just make their own decisions about what they like and dislike based upon the merits of the company itself, and not have to defend based on nonsense like this. And this, in my opinion, it's nonsense. This is just pure nonsense.
And one of the gripings that was going on, and I'm going to throw a disclaimer out here. I have friends at WP Engine, right?
Same.
Sam Nunos,
Mm-hmm.
Damien. I consider all three good friends, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel for them right now.
Me too.
They've been smart. They're not really talking to anybody publicly. So I give
Mm-hmm.
them credit, because we know
Mm-hmm.
there's cease and desist running around. So that's what you do. You let the lawyers handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike our beloved dictator, who files legal paperwork and is still shooting his mouth off and posts out of Slack every 5 minutes or on X, because Mr. Mullen can't shut up, it seems. And that's a fair comment. He hasn't shut
Mm-hmm.
up.
Right. Right.
I'm glad I'm not his attorney, because I would have told him to shut up and zip it like 2 hours ago, or
Yeah.
days ago.
Yeah.
But the problem too with the trademark mess is, what did they do? Not only did this all start, but then they went and tried to change the trademark page on the foundation page and
Right.
change the trademarks. You know what? That doesn't sit in court, as far as I'm concerned, and neither Mark or I are lawyers, so let's go there.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
This is not legal advice, but it's opinion. That's not going to sit well in court, I don't think, in front of a judge. Personally.
I mean, I've had my share of interactions with the law and interactions with judges. I think that anytime that you're self-employed and for various reasons you end up just hiring lawyers for just about all kinds of things. So I've had my share of looking at legal documents, and I have seen judges just say, you're wasting my time, and get pissed off because judges do not like to have their time wasted. Now we have to keep in mind that, so far the only thing that's happened are cease and desist letters, which are not they're not court documents, right? They can be entered into, as I understand it, they can be entered into evidence, but they are not actual court documents. I could personally write a cease and desist letter that says, "Dear so-and-so, please stop doing this," and that would count as a cease and desist letter, I think. So, and I could misspell every word, but I could still enter it into evidence, if it goes to court. So far, a lot of this may just be posturing, and that's well and good. If Titans want to posture against each other and go back and forth, that's fine. My big issue really is the impact this is having on the people of the community. There are people that are saying, I have to change my whole profession. I've been doing this for 17 years or 20 years or whatever. And there are people that are like, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do, because this has been my whole life. I've been all about open source and all this. And if you can do this with open source, then everything I've known about open source is down the tubes. And so there's like this, you want to talk about, last year there was this whole talk about existential threat. This is an existential crisis among the community that that I don't think I think that when you sit disconnected from a group of people for long enough,
Yep.
You get so out of touch, you don't realize the impact you're having on them. And one of the things that was brought up in the Twitter space the other day was the trademark holder of WordPress,
which is
said,
the WordPress Foundation for Clarity. They're the prime holder, automatic uses it under a license, and they're allowed to sub-license it. So let's establish that right away.
That's correct. But who's in charge of the foundation? So
it's supposed to, okay, so let's go there. It's supposedly a board of three.
Supposedly.
Matt Mullenweg is one of the three, and the other two are automatic employees. So let's establish that. So here's the problem. And we went through this with Chat GPT too, by the way, and that mess earlier this year. Anytime you have a paid company trying to control a nonprofit, you have to separate the board of directors and the CEO 100% at arm's length.
Correct.
And Mr. Mullenweg has chosen not to separate himself. So as far as I'm concerned, he's in conflict of interest. And you know how the community feels about that.
Right. And once again, that's something for the lawyers to decide. But from our layperson's standpoint, it certainly looks like a conflict of interest. And one of the comments that he made on the Twitter spaces the other day was that he's a huge defender of open source. But I think that it's very possible that he's looking so much at being the defender of open source that he forgets that human cost that makes open source what it is. And so he can defend open source. He can defend whether or not he thinks, a company has donated enough time or resources or whatever to the project and to the open source project. He can decide all those things. But getting up and once again, looking at these cease and desist letters, I mean, while these may be allegations, looking at the comments like scorched earth and I'm going to go all scorched earth on you or whatever, and assuming that these are all true allegations, not only is that not professional, but it has had such an impact on so many people that, and it's just plain flat out extortion. That's all it is. It's extortion.
So let's use that word, because as far as I'm concerned, and I won't say where I heard it, but Matt certainly did go over to the table at WCUS to talk to WP Engine, but what good was that going to do him? Because the bean counters for Silverlight and the company weren't there. They were promotional people. But that's not fair. That's not fair either.
Right.
Maybe, as far as I'm concerned, and this is my opinion, by the way, folks, Matt threatened them and said, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to expose you. And in my personal opinion, it sounds like it was an extortion to try and get money out of another company. But here's the problem. Nowhere does it say you have to do 5 for the future or pay money to use WordPress or to use WordPress in your business. Please show me where it says that.
Well, it not only does it not say that, but I mean, then we can dive into really what is 5 for the future, right? Well, apparently 5 for the future, as a lot of people are just now discovering, is this program in which the only time that counts is time that's put into core, correct?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Which is, so it doesn't matter that WP Engine spent $75,000 to have this conference, or has spent, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over the past, say 10 years. That doesn't count because they didn't put effort into core.
It doesn't.
I can speak for myself when I say, if you were to look at 5 for the future, I've got 0 hours, but what I can tell you, or zero anything, but what I can tell you is I've spent hundreds of hours in meetups, hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money to go to WordCamps and speak, to sponsor WordCamps, I've organized 4 WordCamps and been part of other WordCamps and at least consulted on other WordCamps. I have had conversations with people at the foundation, and before it was a foundation, it was what I can't remember what they called it before the WordCamp Foundation. But anyway,
you're being fair, Mark. I mean, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
I spend probably 10 to 12 hours a week co-running one of the biggest LinkedIn groups.
That's right. Yeah.
Do I get that? Well, that's not 5 for the future. And my friends, what the hell is it?
Well, what it is,
back to the community. It's not in a way that Mr. Mullenweg wants me to contribute, but I'm helping his community.
But hold on just a second, because if you think about it a little bit further, and I guess this is the thing that frustrates me, everything that falls under 5 to the future is yes, it benefits the open source project, but also what else does it benefit?
It benefits Automatic and .com.
Exactly. And so if it were me looking at it from the outside looking in and saying, well, 5 to the future, the only thing that counts as a donation of time is something that benefits the for-profit company, and but it's under this guise of benefiting the project. There's a problem there. And once again, we get into that conflict of interest thing, right? And so so it's frustrating to me that that people are just discovering that 5 to the future is really only this thing that's a vehicle to get kind of, in a way, free labor for Automatic. And I know, and don't get me wrong, Automatic donates time to the project, and they donate to 5 to the future and all that.
But hang on a sec, but that's self-serving too, because Automatic owns .com, and don't give me all this crap. Oh, we donate 4,000 hours. We donate 4,000 hours to make sure your .com and Pressable, Automatic company, is viable to make money. So you're really donating time into your own business operation, not for 5 for the future, and not for anything else, frankly.
Right. But I guess my point is that is a defense that they can that they can present, and it's arguable. Okay. But once again, there's a lot of documentation and proof that says, well, they're actually taking the marketing and all this time that they're putting into 5 to the future and they're actually using it to their advantage. And so the hours don't count really, but let's just give them the hours and say, yeah, you've got it. But let's also understand that the program really is only set up in a way that benefits Automatic ultimately in every way, shape, and form.
Yep. So what I'll go to is, let's talk about WP Engine and this quote, only 40 hours contribution, which I think is crocky, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But so having sit on every Friday, I do a build mode chat. It runs every Friday for an hour. And every Friday, Brian Gardner sits on the talk and he says, I don't care if you're a WP Engine client or not. And I've jumped on many calls with Brian and said, help, book some time with me. What do you think giving an hour to another dev or designer is? It's contributing to the community. Damien Cook does the same thing. Sam Brockway does the same thing. Their entire team does the same. So let's stop being realistic. If we can start counting hours, let's start counting damn hours, not just what suits our benevolent dictator.
Well, but that's the thing. And so I'm really trying to not be in a position or not necessarily. I'm really working hard to not make. Obviously, I have to put a lot of thought into the words that are about to come out of my mouth. But I don't want to make this out to be let's just attack Matt all day long. Okay.
No, I don't need.
But I do think that it is dangerous, or it is unfair. Let's just call it unfair. Let's just say it's unfair when the person who is the key master gets to decide what counts and what doesn't.
I agree.
Because obviously we end up in a situation like this, and I look at I know the people at WP Engine. They're great people. They're fantastic people, and I've seen people come and go from WP Engines. I've actually toured their building in Austin. I don't understand this attack from the inside like this. And let's also let's look at the aftermath of all this, right? And I don't think that we've actually reached the aftermath. We've reached some of the aftermath.
We're not there. We're not there yet.
But when somebody gets up and talks about how these private equity firms are hollowing out the open source community, what do you think has happened in the last week as a result of this presentation? Do you think
I'll give you a contrary to that. Every time a big company invests any money in any firm, it's a problem. So one of the things that just happened in Canada that has nothing to do with WordPress and nothing to do with open source is Rogers Communications just bought out BC Enterprises to own Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment for $4.7 billion. So they now own 80% or 85%, depending on the number.
Okay. I'm definitely a majority stakeholder.
Majority stakeholder.
By far, yeah.
They will end up with 95% because the other minority owner that's a player, Larry Tenenbaum, has to sell his shares by next year by shareholder agreement. So they will end up with 5. The other 5% is owned by an equity firm. The reason I bring this up, and I'll show you where the parallel is, everybody's screaming and saying, oh, that's a telecom company, got money, they shouldn't be doing this. And my response is, who has $4.7 billion to invest in the sports franchise? You have to be a multi-billionaire to get into that.
Right.
So let's draw the parallel. WP Engine is a hosting company. Who has major dollars to invest in infrastructure? And I worked in that world. I was a major project leader and team leader for a major hospital in Toronto in client services and IT for 21 years. Infrastructure is not for the cheap at heart. It's expensive. Who's got the money to invest?
Right.
So the point I'm making is the peril is the private equity firms have that kind of money.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, and I hate to point out a fact, if WP Engine was on the recommended WordPress hosting page, which you pay for, by the way,
Right. Right.
they
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
not be in this mess.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's also, and this is, pure speculation, but I'm sure you've heard the buzz, which is there has to be more to this than any of us know.
I think it's personal.
I don't really know what my opinion is on it. It sure feels like it. Um, but I don't have any evidence or anything to prove one way or the other. But I will say that it sure feels like it. And I'm not close with Matt. I've spoken to him once in my life.
Me too.
So, I don't know. And it could be a personal thing. All I know is, once again, is that if you are the big protector of open source that you say you are, then you're protective of the humans too. And that is not getting up on stage and saying, if the company you work for, threatens to fire you or whatever, come talk to me and I'll take care of it. I'm talking about, you don't do anything detrimental to the community that puts their livelihoods in jeopardy. And that is part of open source too. And it's not just the code.
In my opinion, Matt is not a strong leader. Strong leaders do not have to bully users, companies. And this
Yeah.
is, to me, a bully tactic.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And the biggest problem here is, so you and I were talking about this before, and we've talked a couple of times before. What I call the WordPress core people. So we know WordPress takes, let's call it 46%. Is that a fair number of the internet? Out of
Sure.
that, out of that 46%, I bet you 1% are the core people. The people like you, the people like me, the people like our friend Todd Jones or Devinder Singh Khan or Ryan Butterbraid, the people like the Brian Gardners, the people at the hosting companies who are all boots on the ground.
Yeah.
The other 45% of the users care less about all this garbage.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. What Matt did by turning off updates impacted those other 45%, even though they had nothing to do with any of this.
Right. Well, of course, that's assuming they're all WP Engine customers, but they're not.
But
but your point is certainly, valid. There were a lot of people yesterday that are like, why is my site not updating? I have the security update that needs to be done. And once again, not being a lawyer, but it sure feels actionable to me,
Yep.
and I think once you get to be a certain age, you just kind of get a feeling for what's actionable and what's not. And this kind of feels, actionable to me. And so what's going to happen? I'm just waiting. I tweeted yesterday, how long is it going to be before the ambulance chasers are like,
I saw
hey,
that. It's already there.
how long is it going to be before they're like, oh, did your site go down because, you couldn't reach a certain repository? Well, let us help, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And
there was one WordPress user, what's his first name? Hugh Smith. Oh God, and I know him well. So here's the problem. He supports community WordPress sites in Florida, and there's a hurricane coming. So where did he spend his night last night? In a data center babysitting to make sure they could handle stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
And this is, we're not playing with people's lives here. And that's my problem.
Yeah.
So we know we got to fix the governance. You and I have talked about that.
Right.
My problem is I'm not so sure we've hit the community so hard. I don't know if this is repairable. I have to ask you.
I think that it is repairable. And I've thought about it. And of course I've talked to a lot of people. And I think that the way it's repairable is, I'm going to use an analogy, okay? And almost every analogy or metaphor that I use has to do with parenting, right?
Yep.
A good parent has a child. Okay. In this particular case, we're going to call the community a child, right? It was a child. Okay. After a certain age, you've built up this child. You've taught them everything you know. You've taught them whatever. And then if you're a good parent, you say, I've done everything I can with this child, and now my role with this child is to be there for support. But my child has all the lessons. They have all their own personality. They have all their own drive and ambitions and all these things. And I want so badly for my child to do better than I ever did.
Yep.
And as a result of that, I need to step aside now and stay in my lane, which might be as a grandparent one day, or it may be as a confidant or a giver of wisdom. If you're lucky, they'll come to you for some wisdom now and then. But I am no longer taking an active role in my child's life on a day-to-day basis. If I'm a good parent, this is what I do. And I look at my own kids. I have a son now who's 19 years old. He's in his second year of college. And I know he's going to go on to do greater things. I talk to him maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I used to talk to him every single day. He's got his own life. He's got his own friends. I don't take as active of a role in his life as I used to, but I know he's going to go on and he's going to do great things. He's going to do greater things than I ever did. Mm-hmm. And man, that's awesome. And for me to be able to sit back and say, I had something to do with that. I mean, that's my legacy, right? Yeah. So my only thing here is what makes this repairable is honestly, if Matt would let go of the past maybe and say, look, I've built this awesome community and look at what this project has turned into and all of this. And now I need to step away from the foundation side of things. And I can continue to run Automatic. I can continue to run WordPress.com and focus my attention on that. But somebody else needs to run this because I get to sit back and my legacy is going to be, I put everything I had into that. I did everything I could with it. And then someone took it and ran with it and it grew and it thrived. And people will remember this as a little blip in history. But they'll remember more importantly, what WordPress became. And
a guy who did that actually was Bill Gates with Microsoft.
Right. Look, everyone thought that when he left, and it did, it took a little, nosedive for a little bit. And then now look at what it is.
Yeah, both him and his co-founder are long gone. Gone.
Yeah.
So look where it's at.
Well, Apple too, when you get right down to it. I mean, the thing is, and these are people with huge egos. It's not that they didn't have the ego. It's just that they had something made them say, okay, I've done everything that I can. And I remember the first time that I saw something really awesome like this happen was actually, I grew up in the LA area. And when Tommy Lasorda stepped down.
Oh, yes.
And everyone who's into baseball knows that Tommy Lasorda, one of the greatest baseball coaches that, ever coached a team. And he went through a period with the Dodgers, and he said, you know what? I retired, or I left the team because I realized that I had done everything I could with this team. And I think that that's where we're at. But that takes a tremendous amount of putting your own ego aside. You look at, even if you look at I don't want to get into American politics, but you look at whether you like the guy or not, or for whatever reason, how often does a political candidate who is the current sitting president say, you know what, this is bigger than me, I need to step aside? And I think that a lot of confidence could be restored in the open source community if the board of the foundation got restructured and actually was run more like the board of a nonprofit foundation. And I think it would be really easy to get the community to buy in, because we actually do buy into the code. We do buy into all the community itself. We just are not currently buying into the person who holds all the keys to the kingdom.
Yep. And besides restructuring the board, where else do you think need to do to bring this community back together? Because we've been going through this for a couple of years now. It started with an
Hmm.
attack on GoDaddy
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
external
Yeah.
threat.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
this, and all the little chicken fighting that's been going on. And as you
Hmm.
and I both know, both status Slack looks like a bomb went off
Oh
today.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. So what do we do to fix this? There's a lot of hard feelings going on too right now.
Um, Boy, I wish I had a really, I'm not a, yeah, not only am I not a lawyer, but I'm not a psychologist.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah.
but it feels like a lot of the stuff that's going on right now with kind of the infighting or the disagreements or what, they're all kind of I would say that those are symptoms of the bigger problem. And
I agree.
it's not that I say sweep them under the rug and they'll go away. I just really feel like if we take care of the real underlying problem,
Yes.
the rest of the stuff, I think, everybody is reasonable. We're all reasonable people, and we all want the same thing, and we all believe in the same thing. And we do actually have more in common than we don't. It's just right now, we're in a situation where lines are being drawn, and I think if you remove the fundamental issue, those lines will go away. And we can go back to having healthy discussions and even healthy heated discussions. Heated discussions are fine as long as they're healthy. I'm not saying that that's the end all be all resolution, but nothing's perfect. Nothing ever will be. So, but right now we're certainly not looking at progress at this week. I mean, it was so funny when I drove in this morning. I've got my playlist and it's just a bunch of random songs. And so I have like a very wide range of musical tastes. And some of it's 80s music, some of it's whatever. And so I'm driving in, and the first song is Kool and the Gang, Celebrate Good Times, right? So I'm
Oh,
I'm like I'm listening to that, and then the very next song is Talking Heads, Burning Down the House. And I'm like, that's how my WordCamp US uh experience was. I went in celebrating, all happy and everything, and I left with the house burning down. I mean, it was like that was my playlist for apparently for WordCamp US. And that's relevant to nothing we've been talking about, other than I feel like it's had a huge this going from an extreme high to an extreme low
mhm.
causes people to react.
Yeah.
And we're in this reactionary state right now, that we need to get, like I had mentioned to you before the show, I tend to get really snarky. That's
Me too.
it's not a stage of grief necessarily, but for me, sarcasm and snark feels like a stage of grief. I get really snarky, and then I get really sad, and I'm already starting to feel this like sadness overcome me of like the impact that it's going to have on so many people, you know because of something that really didn't need to happen.
No, it's true. I posted a tweet this morning, and I really think it's important. And I'll paraphrase. It was basically, I know we're all going through a tough time, but be good to people right now. I mean,
Always. Yeah.
don't say stuff you're on emotion, like walk away from
Yeah.
the keyboard, walk away from Slack, walk away from your phone.
Yeah.
Uh, I went to bed last night, and my head hurt so hard. I spent
Hmm.
45 minutes watching Monday night's The Voice episode just to ignore everything because I
Uh,
was I was done, Mark.
yeah.
Moving forward, what else should we do?
I think we need to continue to figure out ways to have community events,
Yep.
and do things to bring people together. I've never been a huge fan of online meetups, but and this is no different than what I said, in my talk. We need to continue to have that human contact, because sitting behind a keyboard puts us in our own ivory towers. and puts us out of touch with people. And even though there was a dark cloud at the end of WordCamp US, I'm so glad I went. I saw some people. I had a great time. It's always just so neat to see friends, see how they've grown and where they are and what they're doing and all of that. And I think we just need to keep doing more than that. We need to kind of go back to square one with wisdom, right? So we know the formula that works, but now we've got wisdom. So let's take that wisdom and take what works and build upon that.
And let's keep working on the community and the people involved.
Absolutely.
I actually think in the next couple of months this will resolve itself. I don't think it's going to have an overnight resolution. So emotions are running too high right now. I don't even think you'll see a courtroom. I think it will.
No, I think that right now I think that the posturing is going to continue to go on. That's my prediction. But I also, I don't know. I didn't even think it would get this bad. But I will say that was before I saw the cease and desist letter that was put out by the law firm that belongs to WP Engine. Once I saw that, then I knew, it's your podcast, so I can say this. I knew the shit's getting real. So
it's okay. It's okay because the title episode for this podcast is going to be the WP shit show. So there you go. Say whatever you want, my friend.
Oh yeah. Well, it definitely feels like one, but yeah, I mean, don't just, remember to hug your loved ones and everything and remember that there are bigger things than us out there. But yeah, be kind to each other. Absolutely. That's something we always have to remember. And that is something that I admit when I get snarky, I tend to forget. And so thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, and as we end, I kind of want to say I appreciate the WordPress community. I have a lot of friends in a lot of places, including at Automatic.
Right? Yeah.
They're a tough spot. I appreciate you for coming on once again and your friendship.
Of course.
And I hope everybody just take a step back and think about, would you like that said to you? And get that real hardly.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, you have a wonderful day, and thanks for the chat, as always, my friend.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob.
Hey, everybody. Stunning Digital Marketing is your digital concierge. We help you put the pieces together to make your marketing success. Specialties we have including WordPress design and development, WordPress security, which is one of our most popular offerings, ads, and more. So if you want to succeed in the digital world, go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and have a look at what we offer, and we'd be glad to help you. And let's jump on a call and make it happening. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. A very special thank you to Mark for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I love you. I miss you very much. And thanks for all the inspiration over the years and your caring, your understanding, and helping me grow as an individual. Thank you, Dad.